A Florida jury has reached a unanimous decision to send a killer convicted of murdering 2 employees at a Waffle House and gravely wounding a third 16 years ago back to death row after his previous sentence was overturned. It took jurors in Broward County 9 hours of deliberations to decide the fate of 43-year-old Gerhard Hogan. Hogan was originally sentenced to death in 2003 after being convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, armed kidnapping and robbery in connection to the cold-blooded killings of Willie Abzolu and Christina DeLarsoa inside the freezer of the Waffle House near Interstate 75 in Davie in the early hours of March 11, 2002. That first jury voted 9-3 in favor of capital punishment for Hogan, which at the time was enough to send him to death row, but in 2016, a new law was passed making it necessary for a jury to reach a unanimous decision on the death penalty, which prompted the Florida Supreme Court to overturn Hogan's sentence, reported Sun-Sentinel. During Hogan's resentencing trial last month, the prosecution argued that the execution-style murders of 18-year-old cook Abzolu and 17-year-old waitress Della Rosa were especially heinous and cruel. The victim's co-worker Barbara Nunn, who was shot the head but survived, told the court how Della Rosa and Mikkel had all 3 of them kneel in the restaurant freezer and ordered them to put their hands on their heads. State Attorney Mike Satz recounted for the jury how a terrified Della Rosa asked Hogan and his accomplice, Jimmy Mikkel, whether she would ever see her 6-month-old son, Kyle, again. According to court documents, at 4 a.m. on March 11, 2002, Hogan and Mikkel entered the Waffle House in Davie, where Mikkel had at one time worked and where both men were known to the staff from past interactions. After eating breakfast, Mikkel left, then returned with a pair of bolt cutters. Share this article. Share Hogan then produced a gun, herded the 3 employees working the graveyard shift into a small freezer in the kitchen, and locked them inside. As Della Rosa, Abzolu, and Nunn huddled together for warmth, Mikkel went about cutting the locks on cash stores. Hogan returned to the freezer 3 separate times. First, he demanded the victims give him their cell phones. Then he returned and demanded their money. The third time, Hogan ordered the 2 teenage workers and Nunn to turn around and kneel on the floor. Nunn tried to convince Hogan not to shoot them, but her pleas for mercy left him unmoved, and he opened fire, hitting Abzolu in the arm, neck and head, and shooting Della Rosa in the spine and neck. According to published reports, Della Rosa died cowering under a freezer rack and screaming for her baby. Despite being shot in the back of the head from a point-blank range, Nunn regained consciousness after the suspects left and was able to crawl out of the freezer and make her way to a gas station for help. Before she was airlifted to a hospital in critical condition, Nunn gave police a taped statement, identifying Mikkel and Hogan as the perpetrators of the deadly armed robbery. During his resentencing, Hogan's defense attorneys presented mitigating circumstances on behalf of their client, including that a history of parental abandonment and neglect, and evidence of child abuse and head trauma. The jury, however, found that the aggravating factors that justified the death penalty outweighed the mitigating factors. But it's not the end of the road for Hogan. Retiring Broward County Judge Paul Bachman is allowed to set aside the jury's recommendation for the death penalty. Hogan will get one more chance to plead for mercy during a hearing scheduled for December 10. His accomplice, the 49-year-old Mikkel, is serving 5 life sentences after being convicted of armed robbery and felony kidnapping charges, but acquitted of the murders.